Hey, welcome to Perspective Shift Special Edition. I am Frank.
And I am Mike. Thank you guys for joining us today. This is our little special edition, like Frank had just mentioned, where we're going to dive in to a conversation with our listeners. So different listeners have the ability to write into us, share a little bit about what they're going through, their success stories, their troubles, ask for advice, share advice. So this gives us an opportunity to interact with our listeners at home. And so we're going to dive into a special guest today.
Yeah, so Michael Saunders from Zambia.
Yeah, Zambia. Where is Zambia?
It's in Africa. It's just
South Africa.
Yeah,
right?
it's just north of South Africa.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I had never heard of Zambia.
Yeah.
And so I was
well,
like,
there's a lot of countries in Africa. But Michael, thanks for
reaching
out. So he writes in. He tell us he was suffering from drugs and alcohol for a while. He doesn't get into how long, but at this time we got the email. It was 228 days sober, and from that, he obviously came to a point. He started listening to these concepts that we're talking about, and not just us, other podcasts you mentioned, and all of a sudden, out of that, when he started realizing he had to turn his life around, came these morning routines. Like he gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he'll pray. And now the routine itself is a fulfillment of how he felt. That's why it works. It's not necessarily the routine per se, but it's how you feel about the routine. And I know he asked if we have any suggestions, and the truth is you're doing a great job, because the only thing we could suggest is keep heading down this road.
Well, one thing I think we should touch on, too, in his email that he wrote is after doing this routine, he received 2 job offers. He doesn't specify how long, but essentially what he says is he's like, hey, guys, I'm a recovering drug addict, alcohol, whatever it may be. But I came across these concepts. I started studying them. I started listening to what you guys were talking about. And I began to implement them. And after implementing them, I received 2 new job offers. On the right track, feeling great. And he developed this morning routine, which allowed him to essentially stay sober and have these good feelings. So he dives in, and a little bit about his routine. Frank, sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah. So in the morning, it's actually a daily routine. So he comes in the morning about 4 o'clock in the morning, which I like really early in the morning because there's less people. There's nobody to aggravate me. But he does his prayers. He journals, and he thinks about his dreams and features some of that stuff. He also reads Psalms, the book of Psalms and Proverbs. So he gets into the Bible as well, which is, again, when you start reading that, it's all positive stuff. And then by 5 a.m., he goes for a run. I guess as he's running, he likes to listen to spiritual related audio books and podcasts such as ours.
Love that, Michael. He writes a 7-kilometer run. I don't know what a kilometer is.
Yeah,
here in America.
Yeah, it's a pretty.
I bet it's far.
It's pretty.
It sounds far.
Yeah,
because I'm not the biggest. Like Frank exercises every day. I do not exercise every day.
Yeah, it's a pretty. I'll
go for a walk, but
yeah. And then by he's doing a lot by 6 a.m. He's attending online. I guess online he's doing the narcotics NA meetings and reading. All right, so and that's all good stuff. NA and AA are very good spiritual sounding boards for helping people get beyond that point and waking them up to what isn't working. So again, that's kind of having faith in the direction in which you want to go, rather than having faith in reverse, as we talked about on the show before. And then it sounds like the next day
or during the day.
Yeah,
he begins, kind of listening to these types of concepts and doing this work as he's, in the middle of whatever work he does personally at home. And then at 6 p.m. onwards, he says he kind of prepares for that next day. He starts ironing clothes. He prepares coffee, his gym clothes, his journal, everything before bed. So he's got this specific routine: 4 to 4:45, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. Okay, then the rest of his day, and then from 6 p.m. onward, he's kind of in preparation for that next, for the following morning. And so this is great.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this, when you prepare yourself, because a lot of people don't do this. They wait till the morning to scout around to prepare themselves. But when you prepare yourself the night before, you're actually setting in a positive affirmation that it's already done. So a lot when I go to bed at night, I imagine what my day is going to be. I'm preparing that way. I might have a little different prepared routine, but it's no better or worse. It's just different. but I'm preparing because I know it's going to exist. A lot of people like wake up and like, well, see what happens. Yeah. And then they get caught up in the subconscious and they get pulled by all directions. So Michael here has a direct forward outward look onto the next day already at 6 p.m. the night before. Mm-hmm. So he's forward thinking, which is a really good positive way of looking at life.
Couple things I want to touch on are the 4 a.m. to 4:45. This is when Michael gets up to pray, and he writes he surrenders everything to a higher power, and he begins to write in his journal his goals for the day and dreams, etc. So Frank also likes 4 a.m. A person that we also talk about is
what time do you get up?
Well, it depends. I usually, like today I got up at 5:30.
Okay.
But I'm usually up at by 6:30, unless it's on a Sunday, then I'll kind of sleep till 7, 7:30. But I'm up early because it's important to feel like you get the day.
But let's clarify that 4 o'clock isn't the reason it works.
100%.
Yeah, it's
100%.
preferential to me, and obviously Michael Saunders.
I do want to mention though, like 4 a.m. This is a point known, where the veil between worlds is very thin, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Waking up at this 4 a.m. There is our bodies produce melatonin, serotonin, all sorts of different stuff at different times, and throughout our sleep and, process. And I've heard Dr. Joe talk about this, but he highly suggests waking up at this same type of hour because of the chemicals that are being produced in our body. So that might be affecting you at home, Michael. That might be something that you're enjoying or experiencing. Yeah. But regardless, again, it's not the time that you're getting up, sure, but that could be a reason why 4 a.m. speaks to you and is so special. I'm trying to think as far as like a routine goes. So a couple of things on routine. So routine is great. We are creatures of habit. And so I don't think it's necessarily your exact routine is what is giving you the success that you have found. I think it's the fact that you now have a routine. You now have something that is moving you towards your goal. And so that feeling you're generating is creating this experience of abundance, job offers, no longer a need or a pull for drugs or alcohol or whatever that may be. What is your take on that?
Yeah, because he actually mentioned it. So as he has his job offers come in, it's going to change his ability to do the routine in the time fashion he's doing it. So he mentions he needs to optimize it. So he already knows that shifting the routine to then fill in, like if he gets a job and say he has to be at work at like 7 a.m, he might have to shift his routine around. That's okay. We don't want to hold on to the routine and shut everything out as well. So he obviously already understands optimizing the routine once he starts his new job is already something that we do because we have to be malleable and flexible in all ways. Mm-hmm. But the routine itself will shift throughout time.
Correct.
But it's a focal point. It becomes a permission slip, but I don't mean in just the way of just discarding it, because without the permission slip, we have no experience.
Correct.
But the cause of what's happening is deeper, and it's how we feel about our routine, not the routine per se. But again, without the routine, you can't emphasize the feeling.
But you just nailed it. It's not the routine, it's how we feel.
Yeah.
And it's okay, is this a good feeling? Is this a positive feeling? Is this generating what I'm looking for?
And the routine is how we express that. So we not to negate the routine. Mm-hmm. So the routine is the expression we give to the world.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I have a routine in the morning.
Yeah.
I know Frank has a routine in the morning, but we're not saying the reason I'm finding happiness or the reason I'm finding my success is because of the routine. We begin the feeling like you did, Michael, where you started listening to this stuff and it generated this feeling, and this feeling that you generated said your higher self, your intuition was like, hey, get up at this time.
Yeah.
Hey, read these Psalms, because I know what you mean. I do the same thing every morning. I read these different quotes and these different, verses that really speak to me and put me in the zone, if you will. So I know what you mean. It's a good reminder. It's a good way to focus, kind of get you, ready and ready to take on the day, if you will, Yeah,
because he's obviously shifting from a certain habit, one with involved narcotics, in one to now enlightenment and spirituality and growth or an expansion. And it's like a muscle. You have to keep doing it. And eventually it becomes its own habit, and then it takes over from there. And then even then you have to become aware of it to expand and optimize is the word he uses to do that. But this is why we do that. If you just don't have anything to focus on, the quickest thing will pull you towards it. What I mean is something that will satisfy you in the moment, the quick fix. So staying steadfast and focused will the quick fix is something in the moment in which you're in. It's the routine now becomes your quick fix, not the outward substance.
Another thing I want to dive into is details. And so, like, I don't know about you, Michael, in South Africa and in Zambia, but in Western culture in the United States, like we look at like drug addiction or alcohol addiction as something as if it's like a personal like wound or scar and something that we carry with us. And it's like a certain type of person has those types of issues. And that's all mental. That's all mind. In fact, addiction is just simply details, and it's a way your body manifested a sense of protection, or a sense of, like, it was essentially your subconscious mind, manifesting as addiction, suppressing or not acknowledging other feelings or other things that you've experienced in life. So don't get hung up on the addiction side of things, because that's not who you are. Addiction is just something you experienced. You can acknowledge that. All right, great. And now you can move forward from it. So like with Narcotics Anonymous, like that's great. You're visiting that, you do, that's part of your morning routine. Don't get caught in the idea that I am an addict and I'll forever be an addict, because it's that mantra is what keeps you stuck and keeps you in this state of mind that I am an addict. No, you're not an addict. You're Michael Saunders. You're whatever the hell you believe you are. You're whatever the hell you think you are. You're whatever you embrace and embody. Whatever you be, you are. And so if each day you're telling yourself, I am an addict, that is not something you really want to be putting out into the world based on an email like this. You used to have an addiction. Great. That's a story, etc. But go in and rewrite the history. Forgive yourself for whatever situation, accumulated to that, moment where the addiction started, etc., and let it go.
Yeah. And just know that anyone that's ever had an addiction to drugs or whatever, why do people do that? Because it makes them feel good. But yet because when you take something outside of us to feel good, there's always an opposite and adverse effect to it. But when you go within and start doing the routines he's doing, everything's within, and there is no adverse side effect to that. So he's found a different way to satisfy that higher feeling. That's why when people take drugs, they get high. I know why people get drugs, but if you always focus on the outside world, but now Michael's learning how to focus on the inward world. Mm-hmm. And when you focus on the inward world, the outward world becomes brilliant. Yeah. All right. So we want to thank you, Michael, for sending us this email. Anyone else that wants to send their email, please do. And give us permission. He gave us permission to talk about it. We won't talk about it.
Well, one thing before we wrap this up, I do want to say congratulations to Michael, like Frank's talking about. But he did ask if we had any suggestions, related to this. And the only suggestion that I would have related to his routine, I guess if I'm going to provide like a physical, tangible suggestion, one thing that I would suggest is the quickest way to turn off or to begin to regulate your nervous system, which is, in charge of how we experience and how we feel and the emotional state we're in, is through breathing, is through breath work. So I noticed in my journey, when I started my breath work or when I started breathing, this helped me within 5 to 10 minutes quickly get out of this state of fear, panic, depression, whatever it may be, whatever those feelings are arising. Breathing can take you out of that very quickly. So maybe before prayer or maybe after, a run.
But also, too, his run is actually breath work.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You're saying when he's exercising? You're right. Anybody at the gym is performing breath work.
If you hurt your ankle, you can do it on the couch and do it. But when you actually run, you're doing breath work.
You're breathing, 100%. Yeah. Okay, great point.
Yeah, because
that's just something I wanted to throw out because that's like a tangible thing that I noticed helped me control my begin to regulate my nervous system.
Yeah. So that's what happens. A lot of people that work out, they're without consciously knowing it.
They are doing breath work.
Why you bring it up is a great point, because when he's running, he actually is doing breath work. That's why they get what they call the runner's high.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't have to run. You could sit on the couch or in a comfortable chair and do the breath work. But yet, when you are working out, be conscious that you actually are doing breath work, because you're forced to breathe differently than you are just sitting or laying down.
Mm-hmm.
So,
one thing I would also do is before bed, right before you're about to fall asleep, rehearse your day like you're talking about. Picture what you want to accomplish that next day as if you are accomplishing it. See yourself actually doing it, whether it's you working at that new job, whether it's you getting that first check, whether it's you clean, sober, and happy with your family. Picture that moment as you're falling asleep, because we've dropped into this theta state, right before bed, right before we're drifting off to sleep, and we like lose this consciousness in the waking world. And it's during that time that our subconscious is wide open, and it's simply recording. It's like the first 7 years of our life, so it's just recording information. So if you can be putting in information, whether that's you listening to affirmation tapes, something like that, or whether that's you doing visualization like we're talking about, this helps you to experience the next day. Like before I go to bed, I always tell myself, I'm well rested. I picture myself, accomplishing whatever needs to be done in work or in my personal life or with my friends or with my family as I'm falling asleep. And then the next day, I watch that kind of play out.
Yeah, so essentially what he's saying is put yourself in the state in which you want to feel about the accomplishment.
Yeah.
So you're already in that, not going towards it. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to bed, even if you don't have an image, say, how do you want to feel? What kind of lifestyle you want? Imagine that already having it for years.
And
then,
feel it.
Yeah, feel it. Well, that's the feeling. And then when you fall asleep, the subconscious only has that. There's no interference from the outside world to defeat that. If you do it in the morning, you feel good about it, and so you get to work and someone could aggravate you. But if you fall asleep for 8 hours, you have this frequency going throughout your body that's imprinting into your subconscious. That's why we typically like to pray at night. And what is prayer? It's picturing yourself already having what it is you want, not moving towards it.
Correct.
All right, Michael, thank you again.
And congratulations, Michael.
Yeah, congratulations. All right. Anyone else has any stories they want to tell us? And let us know if we can, talk about them. We, like I said earlier, we don't want to just talk about it. If you want to send us an email and just tell us stuff, and if you don't want us to talk about it, let us know. We will not talk about it.
Or yeah, let us know. Hey guys, first name only or whatever.
Yeah.
But share what you're looking for, because what Michael just wrote in about, there's 10,000, 15,000 more listeners who are out there at home going, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah, and we're all one community. So here, me and Mike are sitting here behind this desk in the studio here, but yet Michael Saunders is part of the studio.
Exactly.
Yeah, and everyone else out there is. So they're one unit experiencing different viewpoints of this one
reality,
great universe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, welcome into the family, Michael.
Yeah, welcome, Michael.
All right.
If you guys like what you heard here, like Frank and I always say, write into us. perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com is our email. That's where Michael sent this email. We'll respond back. We'll feature you on the show. And like we're doing with this little special edition, we'll start featuring some of these so we can start interacting with you guys at home as well.
All right. Godspeed, Michael.
Thanks all.
Bye.